Let's sum up NFA and DFA by talking about their differences and similarities. So let's say you have sigma equals to A. There's only one alphabet in at the moment. आपकी language सारी alphabet A पे based है for the sake of understanding DFA and NFA. So let's say N is the total number of states and we are at a state Qi. Let's say this is your DFA. At the state Qi, you will have one outgoing edge against A, leading to any state. One and only one outgoing edge for the letter A. सिग्मा में एक लेटर है और DFA की हर स्टेट से इस एक लेटर के लिए एक आउटगोइंग एज मस्ट है, रिक्वायर्ड है, जरूरी है. QI से A के लिए एक एज होगा, एक से ज्यादा भी नहीं हो सकता और एक से कम भी नहीं हो सकता. That is what makes it deterministic. On the other hand, in case of an NFA, there is no bound. Outgoing edges may be 0 to N. QI state पे A के लिए एक से ज्यादा edges भी हो सकते हैं, leading to two different states, or at some state Q, you may have no edges for the letter A. So the idea is that the number of outgoing edges in an NFA for a particular letter can be no, as in can be none, can be 0, or at the max they can be equal to the total number of states. So let's look at the differences and similarities of DFA and let's compare them. All transitions are deterministic in a DFA. Transitions may be non-deterministic in an NFA. This is actually the second and third point here explains the first point. Each transition for a particular letter, for example, as the previous slide, the letter was A, sigma had the letter A. Each transition for a particular letter from a state leads to exactly one state. So, अगर कोई outgoing edge है एक letter के लिए, तो वो edge सिर्फ एक होगा, वो सिर्फ एक state पे lead करेगा. Similarly, for each state transition on all possible symbol, alphabet should be defined. हर state से transition should be defined for all letters of sigma. This is the idea in this third point. As compared to that, in an NFA, transition for a particular letter from a state leads to a subset of states. As in there is no bound, this is the same thing, that transitions for a particular letter, for example, A का की outgoing edge उतने हो सकते हैं जितनी आपकी states हैं. Maximum can be the total number of states, minimum can be none. Not all symbol transitions need to be defined. अगर आपके sigma में एक से ज़्यादा letters हैं, for example A है और B है, you don't have to have an edge for every letter from all states. That's an NFA. But in case of a DFA, you have to have an edge from every state for all letters of sigma. Eventually, about the acceptance, you accept input string if the last state visited is a final state. अगर आप read कर रहे हो input और आप finally जब आपकी input fully consume होती है, आप final state पे हैं, तो फिर आपकी input accept हो जाती है. But in case of an NFA, you accept the input if one of the last states is F. Basically, आपके पास A के against, if you look here, you have this path and this path. If QJ was a final state, A would be accepted. If QK was a final state, A would be accepted. So basically, there are multiple paths possible in case of an NFA, and among all those paths, when you're traversing a string or when you're reading a string, आपके सारे paths आप read करते हो. किसी भी एक path से अगर आपकी string accept हो जाती है या F state पे पहुंच जाती है, final state पे पहुंच जाती है, तो string accept हो जाती है. Let's design a basic NFA and then let's design the same a DFA for the same language. So the language is A plus B whole star followed by either a double A or a double B. So आप start कैसे करेंगे? आपके पास एक Q naught state your start state है. So you will start off with looking at the shortest strings in the language. The shortest string is either a double A, sigma star जो कि initial part है A plus B whole star. अगर यहाँ से आप lambda ले लेते हो, string of length 0 लेते हो, यहाँ से आपके पास कुछ भी नहीं आता. Input पे जो shortest string must है to reach to the final state has to be either an AA or it has to be a BB. सो आपके पास इनपुट पे या तो ए आएगा या बी आएगा, तो आप फाइनल स्टेट पे चलेंगे। तो इसलिए आप स्टार्ट करेंगे Q0 पे। Q0 पे you have a transition for the letter A which leads to Q1. At Q1 you have a transition for letter A which leads to Q2. Going forward, the other shortest string is BB, so you start off with Q0 again. Q0 you have a transition for B which goes to Q3, and Q3 you have a transition for B which leads to Q4. Q2 accepts double A, and Q4 you're accepting a double B. So this is the part, this part is done here. And going forward, you are left with A plus B whole star at the beginning. So what you do is you just add a loop here for A or B. So आपके पास A आता है तो भी आप इस loop को traverse करते हैं, B आता है तो भी आप इस loop को traverse करते जाते हैं जब तक कि आपके पास double A नहीं आता या last two letters जो आपकी string के हैं वो double A होते हैं, तो फिर आप Q2 पे पहुंच जाते हो। अगर last two letters आपके double B होते हैं तो आप Q4 पे पहुंचते हैं। Here you must notice कि Q0 पे A के लिए एक और दो ट्रांजिशंस हैं, Q0 पे B के लिए एक और दो ट्रांजिशंस हैं। सिमिलरली Q1 पे A के लिए आउटगोइंग एज है, B के लिए नहीं है। Q3 पे B के लिए आउटगोइंग एज है, A के लिए नहीं है। Q2 doesn't have an outgoing edge at all, neither for an A nor for a B. Q4 is likewise. So this is how simple it is to design an NFA. You just look at your regular expression and it's a straightforward translation, most likely for the regular expression. But as opposed to that, let's design the DFA for the very same language, A plus B whole star followed by a double A or a double B. Let's design a DFA for that. Now, this would be the basic thing. This would be where it would be same. आपको अगर Q0 पे AA चाहिए, you go follow the path Q0, Q1, Q2 with an AA, and you get to the state Q2, which is your final state. अगर आपको BB चाहिए, so you follow this path and you get to the state Q4. Now, how can we handle the A plus B whole star part? I have the start state. I already have an outgoing edge for A and I already have an outgoing edge for B. The deterministic restriction says that we cannot have multiple paths or we cannot have multiple transition with a letter. Every transition leads to one state with a particular letter. It cannot lead to multiple states. So we cannot have a loop at the state Q0 for A or B because we are already we have already done that, and we already have outgoing edge with an A which is leading to Q1, and we have an outgoing edge with the B which is leading to Q3. तो अब आप इसको डिटर्मिनिस्टिक ऐसे बनाएंगे कि आपके पास जो एजेस जिस स्टेट्स पे मिस है, आप उसको जो एज जहां मिस हो रहा है, जिस स्टेट पे जो एज नहीं है, आप उसको कवर करोगे, उसको हैंडल करोगे, उसको देखोगे वहां से आपके पास A की या B की सिग्मा के लेटर्स की क्या पॉसिबिलिटी है, और व्हेन यू आर डूइंग दैट, इन दैट यू विल बी एबल टू डिजाइन दैट DFA in its completeness. So if you see, you look at state Q1 पे you have an outgoing edge for A but you don't have a outgoing edge for B. Let's say आप read कर आपकी string आती है, you get an A. So you get an A and at this point you are at state Q1 and the next letter you read is a B. But the next letter is not an A. So you must have an outgoing edge here for B. But where should it go? वो B का edge लेके आपकी string को कहाँ जाना चाहिए? Where should that string go? It should go to a state where it needs at least one more B before getting to the final state. इस state पे B के साथ, एक B के साथ आप final state पे नहीं पहुंच सकते. लेकिन दो B's अगर आ जाते हैं, एक B इस state पे आता है और फिर इसके बाद एक और B आता है, तो फिर आपको final state पे पहुंच जाना चाहिए. तो इस state पे, which is the Q1 state, you should take that B to a state where you need one more B to get to the final state. So you will have the B leading from Q1 to Q3. So if your input is A, B, B, so you start off here, you read an A, you read a B, and you read a B, you get to the final state. So A, B, B is a valid string. A comes from sigma star and B comes from this part after. Similarly, if your string is B, A, that is the same procedure. Therefore, that is why Q1, if Q1 gets a B, you go to Q3, and if Q3 gets an A, you go to Q1. Now, if you look here, Q1 and Q3 states are complete. Q0 was already complete. It already has two outgoing edges because the letters in sigma are 2. Q1 has an edge for A and also has an edge for B. We are talking about the outgoing edges. Q3 has an outgoing for B and an outgoing for A. So these two are complete now. Looking at Q2, it doesn't have an edge going out of it, and similarly the Q4 doesn't have an edge. So at the next part you have to look at what to do with A or B at the state Q2. Q2 पे अगर A आता है तो क्या होना चाहिए? अगर Q2 पे A आना चाहिए, A आता है तो आप उसको Q2 पे ही रख सकते हैं, आप उसको यहाँ पे ही रोटेट कर सकते हैं. इसी तरह से Q4 पे अगर B आता है तो आप उसको यहाँ पे ही साइकिल में एक्सेप्ट कर सकते हैं. And then similarly, अगर Q2 पे B आता है, तो B, again the same strategy. If you get a B, you need one more B before getting to the final state. अगर आपके पास यहाँ पे B आता है, इसका मतलब है कि अभी आपके पास एक A और उसके बाद एक और A आया, या मे बी यहाँ से आप आ रहे हो and you have this double A. Now, if you are at this state Q2 and you get a B, you need to go to this state where you need one more B to get to the final state. So look at this. We are doing this for A first. So if you're at the state Q4, you get an A, you need one more A. So you get an A, you go to Q1, because at Q1 you need one more A, making the last two letters double A to get to the final, before you get to the final state. So you are at the state Q2. अब इस A के बाद अगर और A's आते जाते हैं, तो 3 A's, 4 A's, 5 A's, जितने भी A's आएंगे, eventually that is the last two letters would be A's. So you will have this condition fulfilled of having the last two letters as A. Similarly, Q2 पे अगर आप B देखोगे, तो B would, the transition with the letter B and state Q2 will take you to Q3. And finally, the last two possibilities, Q2 with an A stays here, and if you get a B at Q4, you stay here. So notice that each state has two outgoing transitions, one for each input letter. क्योंकि सिग्मा में 2 लेटर्स हैं, तो हर स्टेट से आप 2 आउटगोइंग्स देख रहे हो. 2 से ज़्यादा भी नहीं हो सकती और 2 से कम भी नहीं हो सकती. So this is about the differences between and similarities of a DFA. So if you look at this, you will see that a DFA is comparatively difficult to build but easier to implement. So difficulty is obvious, but implementation is not. So you will see that in subsequent courses. NFA is straightforward in design, but it is eventually difficult to implement. Design uska straightforward hai, but you don't have to worry about that, because the next lecture in the next week is DFA, and making a DFA from an NFA, as in it's a theorem which if you make a DFA, if you need to make a DFA, you have an NFA, you can convert the NFA into a DFA. So you will be able to do that in a straightforward manner. And so the important part of this entire lecture is that you must understand what is determinism. So concluding further, in DFA, for a given state on a given input, we reach to a deterministic unique state. In NFA or NDFA, as non-deterministic finite automata, we may lead to more than one state for a given input. Empty string can label transitions in NFA only. We need to convert NFA to DFA for designing any machine or a compiler. So that is about it.